I just inherited my father's fortune, only to discover his will traps me in a crooked business scheme. Now I have to outsmart the trustee to keep what's mine. When the lawyer's assistant handed me the thick envelope embossed with our family crest, my heart pounded like a drum. Inside lay my late father's last will and testament, and with it, the key to a six-figure inheritance I'd dreamed of since childhood. Yet, as I skimmed the opening paragraphs, my excitement curdled into suspicion. Dad's will didn't simply leave me a lump sum of cash. Instead, it bequeathed 50% ownership of Sterling Innovations LLC, a fledgling tech startup, to me, and named Mr. Theodore Grant, my father's longtime business partner, as trustee and managing director. In a single clause, Dad had bound me to a business partnership I never knew existed and stripped me of any direct control. The will stipulated that I could receive profit distributions only with Grant's approval and could not sell or transfer my shares unless he signed off. Worse still, any attempt to contest his decisions would forfeit my entire inheritance. I sat on the edge of my father's well-worn leather couch, envelope trembling in hand, as my mother looked on with gentle concern. "Mom, darling, I know it's not what you expected. Me. He loved me. But why trap me? Why not just give me the money?" Mom sighed, folding her hands in her lap. "He worried that without guidance you'd squander everything. Theo was his rock. He wanted someone you could learn from." Me. But a trap disguised as mentorship? I have no say in my own legacy. Mom reached for my hand. "Give it time. Meet Theo. See what he intended." The following morning, I drove to Sterling Innovations' unassuming two-story office park on the edge of town. The glass facade bore the company logo, a stylized S, and inside, the receptionist greeted me with a polite nod. Receptionist. "Mr. Grant will see you now." Second floor, office 203. I ascended the stairs, heart fluttering. Grant's door stood ajar. Inside, he rose from behind a mahogany desk cluttered with financial reports and gadget prototypes. He was tall, silver-haired, and impeccably groomed, his crisp navy suit suggesting boardroom authority. "Grant, you must be Clara Reynolds." He extended a firm handshake. His grip felt like iron. Me. "Mr. Grant, thank you for meeting me." He gestured to a plush leather chair. "Please, sit. I know this transition wasn't what you anticipated. I'm here to guide you through Sterling's growth." Me. "I appreciate guidance. I just wish I had more control." Grant's smile didn't waver. "Control comes with experience. Think of me as your mentor, one who safeguards your interests until you're ready to lead." I studied his calm demeanor, but a flicker in his eyes suggested calculation. The partnership pitch. Grant launched into a polished presentation, projecting slides on a wall-mounted screen. Slide 1. Sterling Innovations, Vision and Mission. Slide 2. Product Roadmap, AI-driven home assistance. Slide 3. Financial projections, break-even year 2, profit year 3. Slide 4. Your role, passive investor to active partner. He explained that under Dad's will, I could choose to remain a silent partner, receiving dividends only, or apply for managing partner status by completing a 6-month executive training program, costing $50,000 in tuition, paid to Theo's affiliated consultancy. Only then could I vote on major decisions. Iwa. His tone was encouraging, but my stomach twisted. Dad's fortune, my birthright, was now hostage to a training fee. Iwa. Me. My father meant for me to learn. But does this fee go to the company or to your consultancy? Grant's expression flickered. Well, the training is run through Sterling's professional development division. Those funds support staff salaries and curriculum development. Me. And that division reports directly to you. Grant's smile tightened. Everything at Sterling funnels through my office. It's corporate structure, nothing more. I nodded, my mind racing. That evening, I sat at my dining table, Father's will open before me. The terms felt like golden handcuffs, tying me to a company I barely understood, under the thumb of a trustee whose only loyalty seemed to be to himself. My fiancé Mark poured me a glass of wine and sat beside me. Mark, how was the meeting? Me. Smooth, too smooth. Mark, he's just protecting your inheritance. Me. Or protecting his power. If Theo controls every dime, I might as well be dead. Mark reached for my hand. You have options. You can negotiate, hire a lawyer, maybe challenge the will. Me. Fight Dad in his grave? I don't know where to start. Mark squeezed my hand. You'll figure it out. I'll help. I managed a small smile, but sleep eluded me. 2 days later, back in my old bedroom at Mom's house, I ransacked Dad's files for any clue to his intentions. Between tax returns and policy statements, I found an unmarked envelope. Inside lay a single page, handwritten in Dad's scrawl. To Clara. If you ever feel trapped by my decisions, look in the lockbox at the foot of my desk. You'll find the key to your freedom. Exo, Dad. My breath caught. Until now, I'd assumed every detail was laid bare in his will. But Dad, ever the puzzles enthusiast, had left me one final riddle. I dashed to his desk in the study, heart hammering, and lifted the loose floorboard I'd never noticed. There it was, a small brass lockbox. The keyhole gleamed in the lamplight. My fingers trembled as I slid the envelope back into my pocket and reached for the key that wasn't there. Standing in the silent study, I realized my inheritance wasn't the trap after all. It was the outcome of a test. Dad had built a labyrinth for me to navigate, with Grant as gatekeeper and a hidden key awaiting discovery. The real battle would be to outsmart both the trustee and the scheme he believed unassailable. I slipped the will and the mysterious note into my bag. Tomorrow I would question Grant about the lockbox key. And when he refused, I'd find another way in. Because Dad's final gift wasn't just money, but the trust that I could claim it on my own terms. Update 1. The next morning, I arrived at Sterling Innovations before dawn. The glass lobby was empty, save for my own echoing footsteps. With Dad's mysterious note burning in my pocket, I headed straight for Theodore Grant's office on the 2nd floor, ready to demand the key to that brass lockbox. The confrontation. Grant's door was ajar when I reached office 203. He sat behind his mahogany desk, reviewing quarterly projections under the pale glow of his desk lamp. Me. Mr. Grant, we need to talk about Dad's lockbox. He looked up, expression polite but guarded. Ah, Clara, to what do I owe this early visit? Me. You know exactly why I'm here. Dad left instructions and a lockbox, yet the will makes no mention of a key. Where is it? Grant closed his notebook. Your father's estate has many nuances. If you wish to access that lockbox, we can discuss the terms. Me. What terms? This was my father's last gift. He wasn't paying you to withhold it. His smile tightened. I'm simply following his wishes as trustee. The lockbox key is held in escrow, released once you complete our executive training program. My blood ran cold. He was doubling down on the trap. Me. That's extortion, Theo. Grant leaned forward, steepling his fingers. Think of it as incentive to equip you with the skills to manage Sterling's future. After 6 months and a $50,000 tuition fee, the key is yours. Me. My inheritance shouldn't be contingent on more payments. He shrugged. Your choice, training or no key. I stormed out, the echo of his laughter following me down the hallway. Back at my car, Mark waited nervously. Mark, how did it go? Me. He's holding the key hostage. We need another route. Mark, what about the company's safe deposit records? There might be a duplicate key, or a code hidden in Dad's files. He reminded me, the email you once found from Dad about estate operations. My pulse quickened. Weeks ago, while helping Mom balance bills, I'd uncovered an encrypted email from Dad titled Estate Operations Manual. I'd dismissed it as boilerplate, but perhaps that manual contained clues to the lockbox's combination. That afternoon, I returned to Dad's study, sliding into the old leather chair. The email attachment, now downloaded, was a password-protected PDF. I tried obvious logins, His birth date, our anniversary, sterling 2023 inches, all failed. Frustration mounted until I remembered his favorite motto, courage over caution. I typed, courage over caution, and the PDF unlocked. Inside lay a 12-page guide on handling Dad's personal affairs after his passing, complete with instructions to locate the lockbox. A note that the lockbox code was the sum of my wedding date digits, a reference to April 14, 1978, Dad and Mom's wedding day. I exhaled. The lockbox required a 3-digit code, 4, April, +1 + 4, day, +1 + 9, +7 + 8, year, equals 34? No, the email clarified. Sum the month and day only, so 4 + 14 equals 18. Retrieving the key. Clutching the code 18, I dashed to Dad's lockbox. The floorboard creaked under my feet as I lifted the lid. Inside lay a brass key stamped Sterling Enov and a small card. Use this wisely, Dad. My heart pounded as I pocketed the key, but Grant guarded the lockbox itself. I needed access to the box now, or he'd seize it. I tucked the key into my purse and drafted a text to Mark. Plan B underway. Meet me at the stockroom. That evening, after everyone left Sterling's office, I sneaked back in through a side entrance Mark had unlocked. Guided by my junior colleague Jenna, we reached the stockroom, a storage closet brimming with company swag and promotional materials. Jenna held the handheld scanner to disable the door alarm. Inside, we found Dad's old desk, dust settling on its polished surface. I located a hidden drawer Dad often used for petty cash. With trembling hands, I slid in the brass key, turning it. The drawer clicked open, revealing a USB drive labeled Sterling_LLC_share titles, a small envelope with Grant's corporate seal. I pocketed both, and we slipped out as silently as we'd come. Back home, I inserted the USB into my laptop. The drive contained a folder titled with scanned images of 2 certificates. Certificate hash 0123, Clara Reynolds, 50% share of Sterling Innovations, LLC. Certificate hash 0456, Theodore Grant, 50% share of Sterling Innovations, LLC. But next to Grant's certificate was an amendment dated the day before Dad's death. Effective immediately, Mr. Grant's share shall convert to 25% if Ms. Reynolds fulfills no mentorship obligations. In other words, if I refused the training and stymied his control, my stake would shrink to 0. Grant would seize 100%. Anger and resolve flared. Dad's lockbox key and share titles were my weapons, but Grant's amendment showed how deep his control ran. Update 2. Bright and early Monday morning, I strode into Sterling Innovations' boardroom, armed with the recovered share certificates, the amendment, and my father's lockbox key. The polished mahogany table gleamed under overhead lights as the executive team filtered in, Grant at the head, flanked by 3 senior managers and Jenna, my ally. Grant greeted me with his practiced smile. Clara, ready for your first board meeting? I placed the documents in front of him. Actually, we need to discuss your recent amendment. His smile faltered. Amendment? Me, this one. I slid the scanned amendment across the table. He stiffened as the managers peered at the text. Effective immediately, Mr. Grant's share shall convert to 25% if Ms. Reynolds fulfills no mentorship obligations. Me. You quietly reduced my inheritance to nothing if I refused your training. Explain. Grant's voice was clipped. Your father authorized this as a safeguard if you chose not to engage. Me. He never told me. The only place that amendment could hide was in Dad's safe, behind your back. The board looked uncomfortable. Jenna exchanged a knowing glance with me. I addressed the assembled managers. Me. Under the will, you have fiduciary duties to me as beneficiary. That amendment is not in the will. It's a unilateral rider you slipped in afterwards. It's void. One manager, Felix, cleared his throat. Our legal counsel. Me. I have the share certificates and the will. They conflict. I control 50% of Sterling. Under corporate law, no amendment outside the will can override my inheritance. Grant's jaw clenched. You're making serious accusations. Me. I have evidence. Unless you rescind that amendment now, I'll file an injunction to freeze corporate decisions. and I'll petition the court to appoint an independent trustee." A hush fell. Grant glanced at the managers, eyes desperate. After tense silence, Grant exhaled. "All right, I concede the amendment was improperly executed. It went in a drawer and I failed to disclose it. Me. Rescind it in writing today." He nodded stiffly and tapped his iPad. Minutes later, he slid a signed rescission across the table. "I, Theodore Grant, hereby rescind any and all amendments to Clara Reynolds' share certificate outside the terms of the will." Jenna seized the tablet, photographed it, and emailed it to our legal counsel. I folded the digital copy with satisfaction. Just as I thought victory was mine, Grant leaned forward with a subtle smile. "Clara, you've shown you can play hardball, but before you celebrate, there's one more gift from your father." My pulse quickened. Another secret? He tapped his phone and projected a third document onto the screen. A power of attorney bearing my father's signature, dated the week before his death. It granted Grant unrestricted authority over all Sterling Innovations assets if the beneficiary is deemed unwilling or incapacitated to act in the company's best interest. "Me, you have a POA? Where did this come from?" "Grant, Dad left it with my office in a sealed envelope marked emergency use. It activates if you don't meet certain standards." I exchanged glances with the managers. They looked uneasy, some embarrassed. Me. "What standards?" Grant smiled thinly. "Your father trusted me to step in if Sterling faced jeopardy. I'll judge whether you're fit to hold your shares." Raising the stakes, my breath caught. Even with the amendment gone, this POA could strip me of all control if Grant deemed me unfit. But the document's language was vague, best interest, undefined. I realized the power it gave him was frighteningly absolute. Me. This POA is no mere contingency. It's a sword over my head. Grant. Consider it insurance. Sterling's future depends on stability. Me. Only the court can validate a POA's activation. I'll file to suspend this document until its legality is reviewed." Grant's face paled. He hadn't anticipated I'd know about the POA, or that I'd be ready to challenge it immediately. I turned to the board. Me. All official documents, wills, trust deeds, POAs, must be deposited with the corporate secretary and disclosed to all shareholders. From now on, I demand full transparency. Under corporate governance rules, all major legal instruments must be recorded in the company's minute book. The managers nodded in agreement. Grant looked cornered. "Felix, Clara's right. We need clarity. Let's implement these changes." Grant sighed, defeated. He tapped his tablet and declared, "Grant, effective immediately, the POA is suspended and I will produce its physical copy to the board for review." Update 3. With the power of attorney suspended, I finally felt the tide turn in my favor. But the deeper I looked, the more I realized just how much Grant had hidden. It was time to hit back where it hurt. Sterling Innovations finances. That afternoon, I met with Elias Chang, a forensic auditor recommended by my lawyer. In his sparsely furnished office, Elias unpacked a large binder of financial statements. "Elias, Grant rerouted nearly $2 million of Sterling funds into offshore holding companies under the name Herring Bay Investments. Those transfers bypassed board approval and appear as, quote, consulting fees." Me. Consulting for whom? Elias. No legitimate invoices. The money vanished within 48 hours each time. I felt a surge of vindication. Grant hadn't just manipulated my inheritance, he'd been looting the company itself. Armed with Elias's report, I convened an emergency general meeting, EGM, of Sterling shareholders. The notice I distributed cited serious breaches of fiduciary duty by Mr. Theodore Grant and called for a vote to remove him as managing director and trustee. On the day of the EGM, the boardroom buzzed with tension. Shareholders, family friends, angel investors, and even a few key employees filled the seats. Grant entered last, his composure slipping as I took the lectern. Me. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for attending on short notice. I've uncovered evidence of unauthorized transfers, totaling $2 million to offshore accounts controlled by Mr. Grant. I projected Elias's redacted summary. July 2023, $750,000 to Herring Bay Investments, Cayman Islands. September 2023, $500,000 to Herring Bay, Swiss Bank. November 2023, $750,000 to an unregistered account in the BVI. Gasps filled the room. Grant's face drained of color. Grant rose to defend himself, fumbling through talking points. He claimed the payments were preliminary licensing fees for unreleased products, though he offered no contracts or receipts. Shareholder: if there's no documentation, it's theft by any other name. The vote proceeded. As I watched proxy forms counted, my hands trembled. When the clerk announced the result, 87% in favor, the boardroom erupted in murmurs and applause. Clerk: Mr. Grant is hereby removed as managing director, effective immediately. Grant stared at his now empty seat, shoulders slumped. I felt a mix of triumph and dread, knowing he still held half the shares, installing interim management. Next, the EGM elected an interim leadership team, me as interim managing partner, Elias as audit chair, and Jenna as operations director. We also appointed an independent compliance officer to monitor any unusual transactions. Me, until we reconstitute the board and secure the company's assets, I ask for your full cooperation. With Grant sidelined, we moved swiftly to freeze all company bank accounts and secure digital access. Elias and Jenna coordinated with IT, changing passwords and triggering alerts on any unusual activity. That evening, Elias forwarded subpoenas served on the Swiss, Cayman, and BVI banks linked to Herring Bay Investments. Within 48 hours, we received confirmation. Cayman Islands, $200,000 remaining, frozen. Swiss account, $100,000, frozen pending review. BVI Holdings, property deeds for 2 vacant lots, a brick-and-mortar fallback. Although most funds had been withdrawn, the frozen assets provided a critical lesson. Sterling's cash flow could, and would, be audited in full. 2 days later, I summoned Grant to Sterling's newly locked-down office. He entered, escorted by security, flanked by his attorney. Me: Theo, your actions have cost this company millions and endangered my inheritance. You will return all funds you diverted, or I will pursue criminal charges. He lowered his eyes. I believed I could reverse the product delays and restore profitability before it mattered. Me: profits don't justify fraud. Your fate is in the hands of the authorities now, and of the shareholders you betrayed. Grant nodded, defeated. With Grant deposed and interim management in place, I began preparations for the final legal battle, seeking both restitution of lost funds and removal of his shareholding privileges. I instructed Elias to finalize the forensic audit report, and I consulted my lawyer on filing a petition to force a buyout of Grant's shares at fair market value using the company's amended bylaws. As I left the office that evening, the city lights shimmered through the glass walls. I realized Dad's puzzle had been more than a test of competence. It was a trial by fire to prove I could defend my legacy against even the craftiest adversary. Tomorrow, I would file the buyout petition and move Sterling Innovations one step closer to regaining financial health, and ensure Theodore Grant could never trap another heir in his fiduciary web. Update 4. The morning after Grant's removal, I arrived at Sterling's legal counsel's sleek glass office with my team, Harper Burke, Elias Chang, and Jenna Torres, armed with the petition to force a compulsory buyout of Theodore Grant's shares. Our goal: invoke Sterling's amended bylaws to redeem his 50% stake at fair market value, preventing him from weaponizing the power of attorney again. At 9 a.m., Harper submitted the petition for mandatory redemption in the Chancery Court of Delaware, where Sterling Innovations was incorporated. The filing package included copy of share certificates recovered from Dad's lockbox confirming my 50% ownership, board minutes from the emergency general meeting, documenting Grant's removal and the interim governance resolution, forensic audit report by Elias Chang, detailing $2 million in unauthorized transfers to Herring Bay Investments. Legal basis: Section 6.2 of Sterling's bylaws, allowing redemption of any shareholder guilty of gross misconduct or breach of fiduciary duty. We paid the expedited filing fee and served Grant's attorney, Marcus Layton, with the court order. Harper arranged for certified mail to the address on Grant's corporate files, ensuring he couldn't plead ignorance. By midday, the news had reached Sterling's offices. In the empty boardroom, I watched as Jenna relayed Grant's counter-strategy. He had filed his own motion for injunctive relief in the same court, seeking to block redemption until the POA dispute was fully adjudicated. His motion accused me of acting in bad faith and threatened irreparable harm to Sterling's stability if forced to buy out a co-founder. Realizing time was of the essence, I instructed Harper to file an opposition brief, underscore Grant's fiduciary breaches and the board's unanimous vote for removal, request an expedited hearing, demand a court date within 10 days to avoid Grant's stalling tactics, motion for temporary restraining order, prevent Grant from accessing any remaining Sterling assets or influencing shareholders until the redemption decision. While the legal filings flew through cyberspace, I turned to Sterling's remaining investors, angel backers, early-stage VCs, and my own emergency contact list. I called each one, me. We need your vote at the upcoming special shareholders meeting. The petition will redeem Theo's shares at FMV, protecting Sterling's future and your investment. Some were hesitant, concerned about legal fees and uncertainty. So I provided them with a summary dossier, outline of Grant's unauthorized transfers, the POA threat, and the proposed redemption price calculation based on the last audited valuation. Risk analysis. How leaving Grant as a 50% shareholder or granting him injunctive control would cripple Sterling's operations. Personal assurance. That I would personally cover legal costs above the first $100,000, and any excess redemption would be financed through Mom's reserved family funds, ensuring no undue drain on company capital. By evening, I secured proxy commitments totaling 80% of outstanding shares, enough to outvote any dissent. Day 5 of the legal skirmish. The Delaware Chancery Court granted an emergency order. The special shareholders meeting would convene virtually on Thursday, pending preliminary review of our filings. I prepared my presentation, recap of fiduciary breaches, unauthorized offshore transfers, hidden amendments, and the POA clauses, legal grounds for redemption, bylaw section 6.2 and precedent cases. Financial implications. Redemption price set at 120% of last audited valuation, fair to Grant and protective of Sterling's balance sheet. Future governance. Introduction of new independent directors, stronger financial controls, and a shareholder committee including minority investors. On Thursday morning, Zoom windows flickered to life. Dozens of shareholders, tiny thumbnails of corporate executives, family members, and brand ambassadors watched intently. I spoke confidently. Me, colleagues and co-owners. Our company is at a crossroads. Our past trustee breached your trust and diverted millions. Today, we vote to redeem his shares and secure Sterling's future. I walked them through Elias's slides, showing the ocean of red flows going offshore. Then Jenna demonstrated how company access had been locked down, ensuring no further leaks. Grant's final gambit. Halfway through the meeting, Grant burst into the virtual room, unmuted and red-faced. Grant, this is a hostile takeover orchestrated by my co-owner. You're undermining Dad's vision. He waved a PDF on screen, a recently drafted board consent agreement he claimed had my signature, allegedly granting him sole authority to block redemptions. It was a forged document, mere manipulation. Me. That document is a forgery. I will provide my verified email logs, and our counsel can prove its inauthenticity. Whispers filled the chat box. Grant sputtered, then was muted by the host at my request. Maya. After a brief recess, the clerk polled the proxies. Votes in favor of redemption streamed in. For 82%, against 15%, mostly Grant's loyalists, abstain 3%. The threshold, greater than 2/3, was met handily. The clerk announced, Clerk, the motion to redeem Theodore Grant's 50% share of Sterling Innovations at a fair market redemption price of $12.5 million is approved. I felt a rush of relief and triumph. Grant's seat emptied. His thumbnail icon vanished from the attendee list. Sterling's ownership structure now read 100% held by Clara Reynolds via the trust and 0% by Grant. Immediately after the vote, Harper initiated wire instructions. Company funds would place $12.5 million into an escrow account managed by the court. In exchange, Grant would surrender his share certificates and resign any rights under the POA. By day's end, the court confirmed. Redemption of Grant's shares complete. Escrow instructions pending Grant's delivery of share certificates and corporate seals. I stood in the empty boardroom, sunlight streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows. The table where so many battles had raged now gleamed as a clean slate. With Grant gone, I announced, new board appointments, 2 independent directors, and Elias Chang as audit chair. Governance reforms, quarterly forensic audits, shareholder transparency portals, and prohibition of discretionary POAs. Growth strategy. Refocus on core AI assistant products, with Mark leading marketing and Jenna directing operations. Jenna grinned and high-fived me. We did it. Me. No one else will ever trap an heir out of fear or greed. As I locked the boardroom door behind me, I felt Dad's spirit in every polished surface, his trust in me vindicated, his fortune finally in capable hands. Update 5. With Theodore Grant's shares redeemed and Sterling Innovations firmly under my stewardship, I turned to rebuilding the company, honoring my father's vision while correcting the mistakes of the past. On Monday morning, I convened the newly formed board in the same mahogany boardroom where so many battles had played out. Jenna and Elias sat beside me, our independent directors flanking the table. I unveiled the rebranding plan, new name, Reynolds Innovations, paying tribute to my father's legacy. New logo, a stylized phoenix rising, symbolizing rebirth and resilience. Mission statement, empowering tomorrow ethically to emphasize transparent growth. Tagline, innovation you can trust. Marketing mock-ups filled the screen, sleek website designs, refreshed product packaging, and social media campaigns featuring real customers, praising our AI home assistant for putting people first. We rebuild not just our technology, but the trust people place in us. The board approved unanimously. With the old S logo retired, we replaced every sign, business card, and software splash screen, every trace of Grant's tainted tenure erased. To further cement the company's renewed commitment, I announced the Reynolds Scholars Program, funded by a portion of the redemption escrow and matching company profits. Objective: award annual scholarships to first-generation college students in STEM fields. Initial endowment, $1 million, seeded from Sterling's redemption funds. Selection criteria: academic merit, community leadership and financial need, partnership, local universities and nonprofit mentoring organizations. At the press launch, I presented the program in Reynolds HQ's new atrium, where student portraits from our inaugural cohort lined the walls. The first 3 scholars, Aisha Nguyen, Roberto Martinez, and Priya Patel, received their checks and shared their aspirations. Aisha, this scholarship makes my engineering degree possible. Applause echoed. I saw my father's proud smile in every young face, a reminder that inheritance isn't just money, it's opportunity. With governance reforms and scholarship commitments in place, we refocused on our core AI home assistant product, now branded Revo Home. Jenna led operations to streamline manufacturing, while Mark helmed a community-centered marketing campaign. Beta program, partnering with local senior centers to adapt Revo Home features for elder care, medication reminders, telehealth links, and simplified interfaces. Pilot results. Seniors reported a 40% increase in daily independence, a powerful proof point for wider rollout. In tandem, Elias set up innovation councils in New York, San Francisco, and Austin forums, where customers, employees, and investors collaborate on product improvements. Transparency reports and council meeting minutes published quarterly fostered open dialogue and restored faith in corporate integrity. 6 months into the rebrand, Reynolds Innovations achieved its first profitable quarter, remarkable after the turmoil. To celebrate, I hosted a Phoenix Day event at the renovated Reynolds homestead. Ceremony unveiled the Phoenix statue in the garden, symbolizing our rise from betrayal. Family tribute. Mom cut the ribbon, joined by Dr. Henderson and Emily from the Medical Trust. Employee recognition. Awards for team members who championed integrity. Jenna received the Guardian of Trust medal. As evening fell, fireworks painted the sky. I stood beside Mom, watching the display. "Mom, your father would be so proud." I squeezed her hand. We honored him by making his dream ours. Determined that no future trustee could seize power unchecked, I led the board to adopt new bylaws. Limitation on trustee powers. No single officer may hold discretionary authority without explicit board approval. Mandatory disclosure. Every significant legal instrument, wills, POAs, amendments, must be filed with the corporate secretary and approved by a supermajority of shareholders. Fiduciary training. All executives undergo annual ethics and governance training, audited by Elias's team. Shareholder democracy. Implementation of a shareholder rights portal, where every vote, proxy, and meeting agenda is public. These reforms, codified in the company charter and ratified at our annual shareholder meeting, closed the door on secret power plays forever. Late one night I returned to my father's study, now dusted and organized, where the brass lockbox had once guarded my inheritance. I placed the lockbox back in its hidden floorboard niche, but this time with a small plaque beneath. To Clara, may you always lead with courage over caution. I left the room, heart full, knowing that my journey, from bewilderment to boardroom victory, had forged me into the steward Dad had hoped I'd become. Through boardroom battles and personal reckonings, Trust Fund Trap shows that inheritance isn't just a gift, it's a responsibility. And those who navigate its hidden traps with heart and tenacity emerge not only richer in wealth, but richer in character.